Welcome to Unity of Charlotte, where our mission is to nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. And let's have that round of applause again, that we are delighted to be here. And, you know, the batteries in the mic weren't working this morning, but our batteries are. And our batteries in our cars are working, and our heaters in our cars. And I noticed as I was driving to Charlotte this morning, it got warmer and warmer as I was on the road, because it does get warmer when you come home to be with people that you love and a teaching that has lit your way in your life. And now even the microphone has batteries, so we are in good stead here. I'm Reverend Pat Dre, and I am glad that you chose to be with us this morning on Zoom or on YouTube or here in the very warm sanctuary. So we're going to start today's service by sharing our statement of oneness, and that will lead us into our opening prayer. So join with me in saying, there is one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. This morning's daily word is light, and how perfect is that? Yes, we had that yet again change to daylight savings time, and even though you may say, oh, I lost an hour of sleep, most of us don't lose an hour of sleep. We either go to bed early or take a nap during the day. And so we never lose anything, but we get more daylight, at least more daylight into our day. And that's what spring means to us. So take a deep breath and let it go. And relax into your seat. Light. The light of truth dissolves all darkness. A bird's cheerful song interrupts the quiet of the night. The dark sky grows lighter, and the puffy clouds begin to glow with a beautiful shade of pink. Brilliant rays announce the sun's arrival. At a challenging time, my heart responds to the hopeful thought that this too shall pass. Hope grows into faith as my mind opens up to the divine wisdom that is always mine to claim. Guided by the dawning light of truth, I see the way forward and follow it with confidence. As surely as each new day brings a sunrise and a young voice brings a cheer, my faith assures me of the light of truth that will dissolve the darkness of any obstacle I may face. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. John 1:5. In this area of light and knowing the light, it is truly wonderful to focus on the light and not the darkness. And I'm reminded of human kindness that reflects the divine that brought us to life. When Ukrainians fled to Poland last week, many mothers carrying little babies were met by a crowd of carriages for their babies. The Polish families had left them carriages to ease their burden and comfort their children, with hundreds of baby carriages at the train station. Oh, what a kind heart humankind has. And so thank you again for being with us this morning. And for those of you that are joining us here in the sanctuary, we're delighted to have you in this warm space. And for those of you joining us on Zoom, you will be delighted to be part of an important message today. And we welcome those of you joining us on YouTube. And let me share with you our important announcements. Our beloved Helen Swanson's service, memorial service, is this coming Saturday, April 2nd at 2 p.m. That's 2 weeks from now, yes? 2 weeks from now, yes. The book club will meet on March 20th at 11:30 a.m. On Zoom. And the affirmative prayer meets Tuesday evenings at 7:15 to set a very thoughtful intention for your life, for your unity community, for Charlotte, and for the world. And you'll really want to join that because it is a beautiful way to anchor your week in a meditative state. The Path of Intention is on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on Zoom. And it is a truly wonderful class. And we are just beginning another book called Creative Thinking by Lucille Cederkranz. And just reading the table of contents is exciting. This will be a very different book and a different experience in this way, that it is not only is it interactive as all our classes are, but it is also with lessons and practices each week. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to join at the very beginning of the Path of Intention for this new book. The men's group meets in person at church on the second and fourth Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. and the Course in Miracles on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. on Zoom. All of the links can be found at Unity of Charlotte. Now do join us as we affirm our new meeting space and our new minister that is coming into experience for us as we have intended. So join with me in saying, we affirm the presence of a new minister and a spiritual home for Unity of Charlotte that fulfills every need for space and use in order to support and share our unified purpose to love, grow, and serve. And so it is. And now it is my great pleasure on this important day, as we welcome spring, a gifted, talented, and beautiful Unity light, Reverend Robin Volker, to speak to us on springing forth. And welcome, Reverend Robin. We are so delighted to have you with us.
Thank you, Reverend Pat. It's wonderful to be with Unity of Charlotte again. I think this may be perhaps the 18th time I have joined you. It's just amazing. This is one of the highlights of my experience related to COVID. It really brought us together and gave us this technology to be able to come together, and welcome all of you on Zoom. Feel free to chat among yourselves, and I'll read all the chats after the service is over. I do hope that you guys are warm up there at Unity of Charlotte. It might not feel warm, but we're 15 over here in the North Georgia mountains. The only place colder in the country is Marquette, Michigan. Can you believe that? So today it is time to spring forth. A mother was preparing pancakes for her sons. Maybe some of you had pancakes this morning. I didn't have time for that. She had two little boys, Kevin, 5, and Ryan, 3, and the boys began to squabble over who was going to get the first pancake. And the mother saw an opportunity for a moral lesson, and she said, if Jesus was sitting here, he would say, let my brother have the first pancake. I can wait. So Kevin, the 5-year-old, turned to his little brother and said, Ryan, you be Jesus today. Today, it is time for us to spin those clocks forward, and I want to talk about a great spiritual power that is one of our spiritual powers that Unity teaches, the power of enthusiasm or zeal. And this is another way that we can be Jesus in the world today, that we can be the Christ in the world today. I don't know if that will get you a pancake or not, but it will definitely help you to live your life to the fullest. Enthusiasm is an energy that is generated by God within us. It is one of our identified 12 spiritual powers that Unity teaches. And our role is to release it, to transform it. We control the dial on all of our spiritual powers. In 1948, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, was 94 years old, and he wrote an affirmation on a scrap of school construction paper in what appears to be crayon. It is framed in the archives at Unity Village, and it's one of my favorite quotes. It may be one of yours as well. So hopefully you can see this. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Papa Charlie wrote this just a few months before he died, but he was still enthusiastic for life. He still had a love for living, and he had a list of things he wanted to accomplish, and he wanted ways that he wanted to serve, and he still had a message to share. He said that enthusiasm is the impulse within us to go forward. It is the urge behind all things. In Unity, we say that every character and every story in the Bible has a metaphysical meaning, a meaning beyond the surface meaning. And Charles taught that our master teacher Jesus developed the spiritual powers in his life until he became the living Christ in expression. And we too can develop these same powers by being aware of them, by studying them, by integrating them into our lives. Unity teaches that we should develop these powers and learn to call on them in our daily lives as we need them. They are spiritual powers for our spiritual toolkit. So this morning, we're focusing in on zeal or enthusiasm. We're going to explore it and claim it and see how we can deepen that energy and power in our lives as we spring forth into this new daylight savings time and the spring that is just waiting around the corner. It may have experienced a little setback, but it was coming. Here's evidence from my garden. It was coming. If we look at the word enthusiasm, it comes from the Greek, the two roots, en and theos, and that means God within. Did you know that? The actual word enthuse means God within. It means that there's a passion, there's a fire within Now, real enthusiasm, spiritual enthusiasm, is not just something that we put on and take off to put a face on for the world or to drive us forward to accomplish something in our lives. Spiritual enthusiasm is a way of life. It is a way of recognizing that there is a fire and a passion of God life within us, and we learn how to stoke that and to protect it and to build it and allow it to come forth in our lives. We need the power of enthusiasm to accomplish things in our lives. And when we can understand it and use it wisely, then our enthusiasm brings us a zest for living and for joy and exuberance. And it allows us the power, the energy to do that which is ours to do today, which is exactly what Charles wrote about on that construction paper. Jesus had a mastermind circle. We call it his disciples. And included in this mastermind circle was Simon the Canaanite, also known as Simon the Zealot. Metaphysically, the word Simon means hearing, and the word Canaan means zeal from below, or a lower energy of zeal, a lower source of zeal. Simon the Canaanite represents that part of you and me that is motivated by worldly things, as opposed to motivated by that inner enthuse from God. When our enthusiasm and our motivation comes from outside ourselves, then we are driven and motivated by obtaining money or worldly things, making worldly accomplishments, and gaining power. When our enthusiasm is based on these outer things, then we look out there for our excitement, for our reward, for more energy. So we're trying to build our enthusiasm on things that are outside of ourselves, hoping that that enthusiasm out there will feed us enough that we can keep feeding whatever it is that we're putting our energy into. This is how people become addicted to different substances. They become addicted to drugs or gambling or alcohol or food or sex or work or even complaining or being right. They are feeding these external parts of themselves, which then gives them enough energy to go feed that habit or that addiction again. And the problem with having your enthusiasm out in the material world is you're going to have to constantly feed it. It is always hungry. It never has enough. It cannot sustain itself. The enthusiasm outside of you cannot sustain itself. And while these things outside of ourselves excite us and we enjoy them, they may not always be productive. So here's an example. When the Crystal Palace exhibition opened in 1851, people flocked to London's Hyde Park to behold the marvels that were displayed there. And at the middle of the 19th century, the big news of the day was steam and how to use it. Now, I know we've evolved a lot since then, but just hear me out. So at that time, on display were steam plows and steam locomotives and steam looms and steam organs, and there was even a steam cannon. But the greatest exhibit, the first prize winner that year was a steam invention with 7,000 moving parts. When it was turned on, the pulleys and the whistles and the bells and the gears all made a lot of noise. And it was very attractive and stimulating. And all the people in the exhibit hall flocked to this particular exhibit. And it won first place. But the interesting thing about it is this contraption didn't do a thing. It had no practical use. 7,000 moving parts that made a lot of noise and a lot of commotion, but it didn't produce anything. When our enthusiasm comes from outside ourselves, we can put a lot of energy into that, and it can make a lot of noise, and we can be fooled into thinking that we're doing something really important. But we might not be accomplishing the work that is ours to do. Simon the Canaanite became Simon the Zealot. So he moved his attention from producing in the outside world using the energy from a lower vibration of Canaan to the vibration of the Zealots. Now, the Zealots were fanatics who lived in the mountains surrounding the land of Israel, and they fought the Romans, trying to get their land back, trying to move the Romans out. So they were like a terrorist group, so to say, and they wanted to free their country from this foreign domination and have free government. Now, Simon had traded in working for material gain for this idealistic goal of freeing his country from the Roman rule. And that was a great ideal. It had merit, but yet it wasn't necessarily a fulfilling goal. The Zealots were rough men living a hard life. They were constantly fighting, constantly resisting, constantly on the run, and constantly in hiding. But they were filled with this devotion of the ideal. So they gave up everything. They gave up family. They gave up their relationships. They gave up their work in the world. They gave up the reward of all the things that they could have in order to chase this ideal and this devotion to the ideal. So even though their ideal was a worthy goal, the enthusiasm and the resulting actions were not. And we've all known people like Simon the Zealot. And these are people who believe that their way is the only way. There's a great zealot that's all over the news, that his way is the only way, and it doesn't matter who has a different belief. And there are people who are very zealous about their religion. Their way is the only way to God. And they are less charitable with other people about how they think of God or how they worship or how they participate in their spiritual practice. But Jesus called Simon into his mastermind group. He called him into this sacred circle. He called him to be a disciple. And there he began to teach him to give up force, to give up fighting, to give up hiding, to give up running, to give up making all this noise on the outside and turn within, to find a power of enthusiasm that was greater than anything that Simon had experienced before. And in the process, Jesus, with all his patience, taught Simon how to be in spiritual community, how to be with the other disciples how to turn his true zeal into something that was very worthwhile and rewarding. When this happens to you and to me, we turn within to tap into this source, our spiritual source of zeal, instead of making a clamoring noise outside ourselves that we constantly have to feed in order to have enthusiasm for life, in order to get enough energy to get out of bed and get going every day. We tap in to this source within that is constantly renewed. And from this kind of zeal, spiritual zeal, we have lasting joy and love and happiness. Do you remember the burning bush in the story with Moses? And Moses saw this burning bush, and it was a fire, but it was not consumed. It never burned out. Spiritual enthusiasm sets us on fire to do the work that is ours to do. And with this kind of enthusiasm, we are never burned out. When we turn to God for our enthusiasm, then the work that we do transforms our lives, and we become under the direction of our higher Christ self, and that perpetually restores and replenishes our enthusiasm. Our enthusiasm needs to be developed along with other spiritual attributes, because if we just allow enthusiasm, whether it comes from outside ourselves or within, if we just allow it to run at its will, then it can actually create more damage than good. We also see that playing out on the world screen. Enthusiasm without wisdom it reminds me of the saying, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. There are many times when enthusiasm is not warranted, where there's too much there's too much fallout. The enthusiasm is ratcheted up too high without being tempered with wisdom. Is this the time? Is this the place? Is this the way? And wisdom allows us to take a step back and then channel that enthusiasm to do the best good. Fillmore wrote in Atom-Smashing Power of Mind, probably my favorite Fillmore book, he said, zeal should be tempered with wisdom. It is possible to be so zealously active in the intellectual plane that one's vitality is consumed and there's nothing left for spiritual growth. You see, all of our powers are here for our own spiritual growth. Let me say that again. All of our spiritual powers are available to us for our own spiritual growth. And whatever power we're tapping into in any given moment is there to elevate us to a higher consciousness that moves us into a more spiritual understanding of who we are and how we are to show up in our physical world. Fillmore said, take time to be holy. Take time to be holy. Never neglect your soul. To grow spiritually, you should exercise your zeal in spiritual ways. Zeal also works well when partnered with the spiritual faculty of order. Order enables us to put first things first. Stephen Covey made that line, that phrase, first things first, pretty famous in the secular world. But that's what order does for us. We can have all these ideas and have all these talents. You may know someone who's really talented in music or teaching or preaching or building or landscaping, but they can't direct that talent because they're so scattered. And they've got all these ideas, but they can't pick a place to start. The zeal gets lost because there is no order. Now, our enthusiasm and zeal can motivate us in a way that will change our world. It is possible that the very zeal and enthusiasm that is within you can have an impact far beyond your personal life. Many of you may have seen the movie Braveheart. Remember that? Starring Mel Gibson. Those of you on Zoom, just you can nod or send me a chat. It's the story of the legendary William Wallace and his valiant struggle to free Scotland from the oppressive King Longshanks of England. It portrays not only the violence of Wallace's struggle, but also treachery and injustice and betrayal, but also courage and tenacity and strength. And one of the most profound lines in the entire movie was uttered by Sir Wallace shortly before he was tortured and executed by his enemies. The Princess of Wales was pleading with Wallace and begging him to swear allegiance to the king so that he would not be killed. And she says to Wallace, "If you do not, you will surely die." To which Wallace responds, "Every man dies, but not every man really lives." This is as true today as it was in the 14th century. We will all surely die, every one of us. The only question is when and how and where, and what will we have done with our lives between our birth and our death. You may be familiar, there's a little poem that's called The Dash. And basically it says that what really counts is the dash in between the dates of birth and death. If we take a chance to reflect on our life before we pass, can we say that we truly lived? Were we enthused with God power in our lives? Another movie classic is the movie with Robin Williams, Dead Poets Society. And it has a scene played where the teacher, who's played by Williams, shows his students the glass showcase with all of the portraits of the students from long past. And Williams passionately says to them, "Can you hear them calling you? They're saying, live an extraordinary life." Carpe diem, he tells his students. Seize the day. Live with zest and enthusiasm. Many people in the twilight of their lives have more regrets for what they didn't do than what they did do. They wish they had done more, seen more, felt more, loved more. They wish they had lived with gusto. The turning of the clock reminds us the seasons continue. They continue to march forward. How much time do you have to live your life with gusto, on purpose, enthused from within. Life is not something to be endured. It's something to be lived full out. It is something that we are supposed to, we have the opportunity to be contagious about. John Wesley said, "Light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles to watch you burn." Jesus never stifled his zeal and enthusiasm. He wasn't ashamed of being enthused for God. He wasn't afraid to be different, afraid to be radical. His genuine enthusiasm brought forth an energy, an aura that left an imprint on the world. 2,000 years, we're still in awe. I don't know what happened back then, but whatever happened back then was so powerful, so enthusiastic, that we are still talking about it today. So here's a shout out to anyone who loves college basketball. March Madness is about to begin. Today is Selection Sunday, and I hope your favorite team gets an invitation to the dance. My alma mater will have a chance to play against the big boys. Yay, Jack State. It's something amazing that people can demonstrate more enthusiasm and excitement for their favorite sports team than they can for their own life. They think nothing of acting a little or a lot crazy when cheering for their team. But are they enthusiastic about the big game? The game of life? Their life? When we consider the spiritual power of zeal, we're invited to look carefully at how we're living our own life. Are we just going through the motions, turning the page on the calendar, moving the clock forward and back? Or are we really living full out? Now, I don't know what is yours to do in your life, but I do know that you have a calling. I do know there are certain things that are enthusing you, that are bubbling up, that are looking for a way to be expressed. What would you like your life to look like? What would your life look like if you gave it your all? If you gave your all to expressing the Christ within you? What would our life be like if we could say, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought be done by me? Let's take time for reflection and meditation. I invite you to turn your attention away from all outer distractions. Close your eyes. Feel the breath in your body. Be present here now with the sound of my voice. We know in God there is no time or space, and that as we set the intention to be one in Christ, all that sense of separation collapses. And right now, in this breath, we breathe together. We become one together. Within each of us is the wellspring of God energy. It beats our hearts, it breathes our lungs. And as we become quiet and move our attention away from those outer distractions, we find within ourselves that place that is enthused by the power of spirit. As we breathe and sit quietly together, that enthusiasm bubbles up. It is an ever-present energy. When we use the energy of life that comes from within us to ignite our dreams and fuel our lives and guide our actions, it is never consumed. We never burn out. We don't rust out. We live out. And quietly to yourself affirm, I enthusiastically express the Spirit of God within me. I enthusiastically express the Spirit of God within me. We allow time in the silence for this truth to raise us in consciousness. I enthusiastically express the Spirit within me. I love my life. My life loves me. I love my health. My health loves me. I love my God. God loves me. As we begin to lessen our attention on the zeal and enthusiasm within us and return our attention outward, we bring with us this zeal of God as it shines through us, lighting our way, guiding our steps, giving us energy to spring forth, to live full out, and to find what is ours to do in our world. today. Wiggle fingers and toes. Shrug your shoulders. And when you are ready, open your eyes. May you spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought be done by you today, and be a blessing for yourself and for the world. Happy Spring Forward Day. Go forth with my love. God bless.
You know, when those little pauses in technology occur, I think we're given an extra gift of a moment to ponder an important message. And that was such a beautiful message, Reverend Robin. I wanted to just give you a hug afterwards, because this idea of the enthusiasm, the God within, is such an extraordinary, simple but extraordinary message. And the idea to do first things first, and that beautiful quote from Charles Fillmore, to do that which is mine to do today, is what a message to go out and live with gusto. And all I can say in closing is, Reverend Robin, you can have the first pancake. All right.
Well,
We are
Pat,
now to that part in our service, which is the offertory. This is a chance to be reminded, to let yourself know how blessed you are, how wonderfully blessed you have been to come into this world at this important time right now, to be who you are, to bring the gifts that you are into the world and to express them. And so we thank you for being with us, for being our gift to unity. And we also thank you for your ongoing support of the important idea of Unity of Charlotte as we move forward into this extraordinary coming year, as we express Unity of Charlotte with gusto. And so join with me in our prosperity blessing. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.